This is my 1964 Thompson Seamate. It's 14 feet, 10 inches long. It weighs about 650 pounds, not counting the engine. I've owned it now for about 30 years. When I bought it, it looked pretty much as nice as it does now, except the bottom had some rot in it. The first time I backed it into the water, it filled up just like a sieve, and I was able to use it because I'd fill it up with water with a hose and then let the water would be leaking out through all the leaks, but gradually the wood would soak up the moisture and expand, and then it would not leak as bad, so that you could use it as a boat. So I put a 50 horse Merc on it. I bought the boat and the trailer with no motor, and I've upgraded the trailer. This is a newer trailer, and this is an almost new Suzuki 4-stroke 30 that is a really decent motor. I really like it, but I'm not an expert, but I'm just trying to pass on what I've learned over the years. After using the boat like that for a couple years, where I'd have to fill it up with water for like 2 weeks, I noticed when I took it out one day, I saw what looked like a delaminated piece of plywood from the bottom hanging down, and then crawling under my back under the boat, pushing up with my thumb. The bottom planks were so soft I could stick my thumb through it. So I knew I had to do something. So there was a wooden boat place then in Madison where I lived back then, and I stripped everything off, took the motor off, and gave it to them, and they put a new bottom on. It cost $8,000 25 years ago, but it was well worth it. I remember them telling me at the time that just a 4x8 sheet of marine plywood cost $1,800, and that was 20 years ago. So imagine what it costs now. People, I think, don't understand some things about these boats. Just speaking about the Thompson, you look at this deck and they think that that's mahogany, which is only partially true. It is a plywood that has a mahogany veneer on the top. So sometimes people who don't know any better, sand this down, and they actually sand off parts of the top of the mahogany layer, and then you can't get this beautiful reddish brown to come back anymore. Most of the rest of the boat, like the keel and the ribs, originally were made out of oak, and Thompson used to advertise that a pound of oak is stronger than a pound of steel. So that was part of their advertising. I'm not an engineer or anything, so I don't know how accurate that is, but I do know there are a couple awesome properties with wood. Wood is a material that you can bend, flex, and it'll retain its strength. Metal, while it's bending back and forth, becomes brittle. Think of like a coat hanger where you bend it and then just keep bending it back and forth in the same spot. You can actually feel it heat up at the bend, and then it snaps. The bad part about wood is it's susceptible to dry rot, particularly oak. And when I've had portions of the keel replaced on this boat, instead of using oak, they used Douglas fir, which is a more less prone to rot. Okay, so the original floor on these was kind of, I'm not sure exactly what you call it, kind of a particle board that was wrapped around in a fabric called Nautilex, which is what I've done to replace the floor. What I did was I just used regular plywood, not even treated plywood, and then wrapped the Nautilex around it. I knew this boat's going to be in a garage when it's not being used, so I didn't want the added weight, but if you look down inside here, you've got the keel running along there, and Thompson had what they called a T keel. So you had the keel, if you're looking at it in cross section, it goes up like this, and then it has a side board on each side, and the ribs go underneath the side boards, but they don't touch the center board, so that leaves a little bit of gap for water to drip through to go to the back. Again, this is called lapstrake construction, and if you look on that side, you can see where there are little bolts every few inches that bolt each lap to the next, and then you've got oak ribs, that are only, I don't know, 6 inches apart. So these boats were known to be very strong when they were first made. When you have problems because of these ribs, you get, if dirt gets in here and it settles alongside the keel, it plugs where the water goes through, so the water doesn't drain. So you'll end up with, water standing in places, especially right along the keel, and that's where they end up rotting. The other problem was back in the 1960s, outboard motors were all 2-strokes for the most part. I guess Homelite made a 4-stroke. But when you tilted the motor up, which you commonly would do, the gas leaks out of the carburetor and it drips right down into the bilge. So now you've got water and oily gasoline in the bilge. That eats the varnish off and exposes the bare wood, and then again you've got the moisture in there, and that's what starts the dry rot. So where my boat leaked was right along the keel all the way up to the front, and I believe the keel is actually originally in 3 pieces to make that bend to make for the stem of it. But if you're looking to buy a boat like this, you need to get down in there and just feel it with your fingers, because you can feel it if it's soft or if it's dirty. And in order to keep a boat, this is, like I say, it's 1964, so what does that mean? It's 61 years old. Every couple of years I take everything out of it and I get in there and I clean the bottom of the boat. Soap and water, vacuum, all with the sand and everything else, and then when I got everything clean, I will varnish, all the whole bottom, particularly in along where the keel is and the ribs and the places where the rot can start. After I had the boat or the new bottom put on, a few years later, I had a soft spot in the transom, so I went back to the same guys and they redid the transom for me. And I wanted to keep the original, or as much of the original wood as I could. And back when they used to have these Thompson boat regattas in Marinette, I had a guy get in my boat who had been a Thompson employee who built these things. I actually met the guy who designed this particular model. His name is Pete Thompson as well. But if you look, they have a serial number. If I've got this right angle here. So you've got your Thompson nameplate right there, and then you can see these numbers that are stamped into the transom. And this gentleman was able to read those numbers, and he told me the year and the month that the boat was built, and he told me the 3 guys that built it. And like a dummy back then, I didn't write down the names of the guys, but nonetheless. So to another part here. Everything is original, obviously, except for that depth finder there. This is the original top. There's some spots where the seam is you know, gone a little bit, but it still goes up and it's fine. You can run it at speed and everything. Nothing's falling apart. I've got a couple little tears in the seat right there. But I think it was originally actually rated for 70 horsepower. And they actually had this thing with back-to-back seats and jump seats in the back, which would be a lot of weight. I would definitely want 70 horsepower if I had that much weight in it. So I've tried to reduce the weight as much as possible. And then I've got the 30 on it, which is, I can't say enough about this 30 Suzuki. It's quiet, reliable. It's the easiest on gas engine and the quietest engine I've ever owned by far. So let's see if I can think of anything else you need to know. I mean, it's expensive if you're going to have somebody put a new bottom on. I mean, I can't imagine what it would cost now. So if you buy a boat like this, look it over good, make sure you know what you're getting into, and you got to store it inside. If it sits out in the rain and a snowbank and even the sun, it's not going to last very long. This era of Thompson boats were known for this flared bow, which besides I think is really pretty. It's also nice because it throws the splash out to the side. If you're going through waves, most of the spray goes out to the side instead of up and in your face. The hull on these is not a deep V, it's a flat bottom in the back, which is again good for gas mileage and using it with a low horsepower. Later in the 60s, when deep V's became the thing, they started to build the wood boats with a little bit of a deep V too. But with this boat, I'll go out in Lake Superior and Green Bay with it, but not if it's going to be rough. It's just a little boat. So, and I like the fact that without a deep V, I can get through some shallow water with it. So, anyway, there aren't a lot of these left, and they were not ever collectible like the old, barrel back Chris Crafts or things like that. But I know there's a lot of guys like me, grew up in the 60s and just really love these things. They're just beautiful boats. Now this is the original trailer that came with my Thompson, and it was an excellent trailer. Actually worked better than the new one does. If you can see right in the middle there, there's a lever that flips and then it will tilt up like this. So that and the smaller wheels make it really easy to get on and off in shallow or not that great of boat landings. With this trailer, I never had to get my feet wet to launch it or retrieve it. The newer trailer, they have larger wheels and it's much higher, and it's made to more, safely transport it on the highway. But as far as getting it in and out of the water, the old trailer was much better. So why did I get a new trailer, you might ask? You have to remember that boat trailers rust from the inside out. I've seen a number of people at boat shows and other places where they have the original trailer, they sandblast it, repaint it, put in new wheel bearings and everything, and they think it's fine. But I think you have to be real careful. When I decided to get a new trailer, I looked this one over pretty good, and I could see cracks and welds. And so I thought, well, I just don't want to risk it. If the trailer comes apart going down the highway, that's a bad day.